Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Learning FreeCAD for Beginners, where we're teaching the fundamentals of FreeCAD with practical examples and learning this through workflows. We're on tutorial 7 and we're going to progress from our standard sketches where we're creating pads and pockets, and instead we're going to be looking at profiles. We're going to be learning how to use profiles in a part design workflow where we're using additive features, and later we're going to be using the subtractive features, which are the groove, the subtractive loft and the subtractive pipe. Though we've got these tools in the part design workflow, we also have the same tools in the part, but the part workflow also offers much more flexibility when we create our models, and we're going to be going through that in a number of other videos. At the end of this video, you'll be able to create this model. Now, this is a control knob for a cooker or some other electrical equipment, and we've made this from a revolve and a sweep. We're going to be taking you through this model, showing you how to first create it from standard extrudes and pockets, and then we're going to show you how vital it is to understand how to use revolves and sweeps and show you how much easier it is. So I hope you're enjoying this journey, and let's have a look at this technique. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. So if you've been following these tutorials, you understand the basic concepts of a pad and pocket, and also the basic concepts of the extrude in the part workbench. We're in the part design and we're looking at a sketch at the moment. Now, from this sketch, we create a pad. And if we look at the pad, what we've done is just taken the top profile of an object and extruded that along a single vector. Now, pads and pockets, also extrudes, depending on what workbench you're using, are quite limited in the direction that we want to go. We can only go in one direction, we can't curve that object or use multiple profiles in our extrusion. For that, we have to use a different technique. Now, if we look across here, you can see a number of different icons. We've got the yellow ones that are additive and the red and blue ones that are subtractive. In here, you'll see the pad, but also we've got the revolve, the additive loft, and the sweep or the additive pipe. And we've got the subtractive versions of those as well. Over in the part workbench, we have the same, but they're just called loft, sweep, and revolve. We don't have subtractive versions of those. Those are done with Boolean operations. These tools or these operations allow you to create objects from profiles in different ways. So for instance, we can revolve a profile around an axis or around a reference to create circular objects. We can loft profiles through other profiles, such as when you're creating an aerofoil or even a vase. We've also got the sweep that allows us to sweep profile along a path and also through other profiles along that path. Now, the difference between these operations in the part and part design are that in the part design we need a closed sketch. In the part, it's much more forgiving and it allows us to use a closed sketch, an open sketch, an edge, even a vector. So what I like to do now is take something like a cooker control knob and show you how to create that in the part design. So I'm in the part design, I've started a new document and I'm going to create a body and I'm going to create a sketch. And go along the XY plane and we're going to just sketch the cooker knob in here from looking down. We're just going to use extrudes and pockets first, and then move on to something like a revolve to show you how quicker it is to create the object. And start with a circle in here. And I'm not going to do too much constraining, so I can move through this quickly, but I need to start off with some diameter of around 50 millimeters. And we'll close that and we'll click the sketch. It's already selected there. Let's see if we can get it on screen first so we know whereabouts it is. There we are. We'll extrude that around about 25 millimeters. Let's add some taper as well. So let's add around about, we're going to go minus to taper the top like so. so. And instead of 35, let's do 25. There we go. And OK that. So we've got our base shape. We need to hollow out the bottom. So I'm going to click on the face, create a sketch in there. Remembering this is only for pockets and pads at the moment. So we can look at this and see how much easier it is to create this with a Revolve. So I've got the circle in here. I'm just going to hit escape to get the mouse pointer back and bring this out like so. Let's hit close. Now I'm going to pocket this. And we need to match the taper, which I've forgotten what it is. So that's bring the taper down like so and increase the length inwards. Can't remember what the taper was before, but we need to really match the taper on the outside and the inside. Otherwise, we're going to get into problems if we pocket too far and we get thin enough material. But we're just working out speed, and I'm going to OK that. I'm now going to add the shaft that sits in here. So click on that face, and you can see how many actions we've already done. We've done 2 already. This is our 3rd. And we'll add a circle. It comes out to here. Let's close that. And we'll pad that forwards. And I want to come right out so it exits at the top. And we'll add some taper on there as well. So we'll bring this down to something like minus 18 or a bit further. There we go. Okay, that. And then we add basically the connection part here. So here, normally on Cooker, they're a D pocket, but we'll just go for a single hole in there like so. Close that, and that's pocket that. And we'll pocket that to a depth of say 20 millimeters. So that's gone through there. It hasn't come out the top. So that's about right. So that's your basic shape for a control knob. We need to add some other features on here, but we'll get to that in a moment. So we've done 4 operations. So we've got the pad, pocket, pad, and then pocket again. We could do all of this with one single operation if we used a Revolve. But we have to use a bit of our imagination because we need to look at this and figure out the profile. If we look at it from the front, well, we can get the profile quite easily just by drawing around this. But we've got internal features we need to think about in here. So if this was sliced in 2, we can see the internal features in here. For instance, let me just slice this object in 2. I'm going to use the part workbench. Now you don't have to do this. This is just me slicing this for demonstration. And I'm going to create a cross section. So I'm going to take that body and we use the cross section. And we need to be on the right plane, which is that one. And one section, let's hit OK. So let's create a cross section there. Let's press the space bar and you can see what the cross section looks like. Now when we use a Revolve, it has to revolve around an axis. So it needs to revolve around the middle. If I view the axis cross by toggling it, you can see it's there. Anything to the left of this, we would use as the profile for the revolution. So we'll take this part here and just revolve it around here. Let's do this. So that's remove all we've done. So I'm just going to delete the body and delete this one. We could leave this one for reference, but I don't think we need it. Let's start from fresh. So I'm going to come back over to the part design and we'll create a body and create the sketch. This time we need to pick a different plane because I don't want to go in from the top. It doesn't matter really because we can just flip it over if we wanted to. But I'm going to go for the XZ plane. Now let's start sketching one side of the axis. So we're looking at the left side. I'm going to use the polyline. And it's got to be closed sketch, so I'm going to come up, let's say, from the center. Here, come up to the top. And this is the top part. So we've got the auto constraints on and avoid redundant constraints. You can see that down here. And what we're going to do is come down, across, up, and then say this way, and come down again and connect to that line. and we want a hole in here as well, so we need to come up like so and come across. I'm going to hit escape to get the mouse pointer back, and again I'm going to remove the constraint from in here, so just going to delete that, so that releases that line. We're just going to put these two together because I shouldn't attach it to the middle there, and those together. Let's click on the redundant constraints and delete them. So that one's there. I need to keep that one horizontal, and that point on that line with point on line constraint. And straight away, we've basically got the profile that we're going to use. I would go in and basically lock all this down, all this geometry down. But this gives you an idea of how this will be created. So something like that. If I hit close, we've got the profile here. Now all I have to do is click on that sketch and then use the revolve to revolve this around. And then we have our starts of our cooker knob. The revolution is around 360 and its axis is around the vertical sketch axis. Now this is important. Let me OK that so you can see that there. And you'll notice that the axis cross goes right through the center of that. If we come into the sketch, this is the vertical sketch axis and it sits upon there. And you can see the point on line constraints here. If I delete those, so I can move this out, so I'm just clicking on those constraints and deleting them. That frees up this one. If I move this away from this line, what will happen is that we'll get a hole in there. And obviously we can use that to our advantage. So we've got a small hole in the top going all the way through. If I cross that line, we'll end up with problems. We need to keep to the left of this line. If I hit close, what you'll see on the left hand side is there's an exclamation mark on the last action, which is the revolution. Well, as you can see, it's much simpler because we've only got one action in here, this one here. And that's because the revolve has gone past this vertical sketch axis. So this here is the vertical sketch axis. We just need to place it upon there with a point on line constraint. And let's make sure that's got some vertical constraint there as well. So it's quite simple to do with a revolve. Again, if we're going to revolve around this axis, we mustn't cross it. We can cross this one, we just mustn't cross the axes that we're going to revolve around. So this profile, if I close that, you can see we've basically done everything that we need with one operation. You notice it's created a number of flat faces. So these planar faces here, this planar face is a planar face. It's all along one plane and we can attach sketches to those. And those were created because the sketch has these horizontal aligned geometry here and here. This will make the curve, so this one here gets revolved, so this will be a curve and this will be a planar face as well. So these all create planar faces. Now if we go back and have a look, well, a lot of cooker control knobs have a curved surface. So if this was, say we've just done this with extrudes, if we wanted to curve this surface, we would have to come in and say add a fillet and curve this around like so. When we're using the revolve, we can factor this in. So we look at the sketch. All I need to do is come in and remove this line here and delete that. Let's bring this up a little and we'll add in an arc between these 2 points, auto constraining on there, and just add the arc in like so. A little bit of adjustment just to get it right, and this is where constraining and locking this down comes in handy. It makes this adjustment much easy. Say something like that. If I hit close now, you'll notice that this seam now runs all the way up and we get a curved top. So we now created quite a simple and very quick control knob on there with one single action. Now if you look at control knobs, what you'll notice is that we're able to orientate the object, because we would have some kind of ridge that runs along here showing where the top part is. So this would be on 0 on the cooker, so we can rotate this around. That's really easy to do with this because we can utilize one of the operations that we was talking about earlier called a sweep. Sweep needs a path and a profile. Let me just show you how a sweep works in a new document. We'll create a new document, and in here we'll create a body and we'll create a profile. Now I'm going to use the profile along the XZ plane. Now the profile I'm going to use is just basically a slot, and that's just get rid of. I know that will be the redundant constraint there, so we've got that. This is just the profile, so we'll close that. We're going to create a path now. So to do that, I need to create another sketch, or I can use something from an existing object like an edge or a seam in between somewhere. So you probably figured out how we're going to add that ridge in there back with our other example. So let's place this on the XY plane, and that's going through there, and I'm just going to add something in here. Let's go for an arc and connect up to that point. This is going to be the path, and we're just going to place the arc in there like so. I can use this profile along this path. So I can take that sketch, this one here, and sweep it along this path. To do that, I use the additive pipe or part design. These are all additive features, so create an additive feature and use the additive pipe. Pipe and sweep are the same thing. So first it's going to ask us to select a feature that we want to sweep through the path. And I want this one here. So just click that one there. And you can see the profile is object sketch. If I already selected that when we very first went in there, that will be added in there. Now it's asking us for a path. So we add an edge or add an object. I'm going to add an edge and click on this here. If this was multiple edges, then I'll just add an edge and then add another one on the end. You can see that material has been made. We swept along that path. So how can we use this in our original example? Well, let's close out of here and have a look. We have a path already. So if you look at the object, we got this seam, these two edges. So we can create a profile that sweeps along here. Let's do that. So I'm going to make sure that nothing is selected, and I'm going to get myself orientated. So I know I've got to create a profile along the YZ plane. So like here. Let's create a sketch. You can see the YZ planes there. So let's create a sketch along the YZ plane. It's in the middle of that object, and you can see what's going to happen. We're going to create the profile here. Let's use the section view so we can see inside, and we'll zoom in a bit and start creating this profile. So I want it to sit about here, and I'm going to use a line, and we need it to be embedded in the object like so. And maybe a couple more lines, so one up here and one up here, and an arc that sits on top of there, so an arc that sits here. I'm going to take this point and place it along this line because I want to keep it symmetric. So that's on there, and I need some horizontal constraint on there. So we've got basically our profile. Let's move this up. Need to keep these 2 points in line because otherwise it's going to look extremely odd. There we go. And we want something, say, like that. Let's hit close and have a look where that sits. So this is going to be our profile. And it's going to be swept along this line here. So as we demonstrated, we click the sketch and then click on the additive pipe or part design, create an additive feature, additive pipe. Now we need to add the edge. So I'm going to click add edge and add the top edge. And now we need this edge here as well. So click add edge again and add that one. You can see what's happened. The material has been swept across there, but it doesn't look right. It overhangs the bottom, and I want it tapered to a point down here. We can use another profile. So if we look down here, we've got this section transformation, and we can drop this down to multi-selection, and in here we add additional profiles. But we need an additional profile to add on to that. Let's cancel out. Let's add one. With profiles, the best idea is to match the number of edges. So we look at this one and we hide the revolution. We can see we've got a bottom, two sides and a curve at the top. As long as we match the number of edges, we can morph between the profiles, even if it's a curved or a straight, etc. Bring the revolution back by pressing the space bar, and let's go to the bottom. I'm going to create a sketch along here, along this face. Let's find that seam. So that seam's here. So let's bring this up, and let's create a profile along there. We're going to do the same. So basically it's just, I'm going to go for the rectangle to make it life a lot easier, and we'll delete the top and create the arc between these. Zoom in a bit so I can see what I'm doing and add that in there. Create the curve, escape, place this point on this line, point on object, constraint. So let's make these lines equal, so equal length, and now we can pull in the side, and let's see what our profile will look like. So I'm looking for something a bit smaller, or a lot smaller, something like that. Let's hit close. Now we've got a smaller profile and a larger one at the top. Let's see what happens when we create the sweep. So we need to pick one of the profiles. So I'm going to pick the top one. Select the additive pipe. We now need to add the edges. So add edge and select this edge. Add edge again. Select this one. We can see it's not matching the profile at the bottom. So I'm going to zoom in, and let's come down to the left hand side and look at the section transformation. Set this to multi-section, and then we add a section, and we want this one in here. See how that's changed? It's now in line with the bottom, it doesn't overhang, and you can see it's morphed between those profiles. Come up, hit OK, and now we've got that top ridge running all the way along there. We can add more profiles in here. For instance, we can add a profile in here, and this will smooth out this curve and makes the model look a bit more appealing. But that's a simple rotate with a sweep. So you can see how those are used. So we create this model in the part design. We would use the same sketches and a similar workflow in the part workbench, but the question is, where would you use the part design over a part workbench workflow for revolves and sweeps? Well, we'll be answering that question in our next video. We'll be looking at part workflows and how much flexible they are over the part design. So I hope you're enjoying these videos, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to the site. I also have a Ko-Fi or a coffee site that you can donate to if you so desire, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can subscribe and get extra content, and that's at www.patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Any money that's kindly donated will be used to expand the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.